It was the year 1854, in a small town called Port Huron, Michigan. A 7-year-old boy sat quietly at the back of his classroom, staring out the window. He wasn't paying attention to what the teacher was saying. His mind was somewhere else, wondering why sound moved faster through metal than air, or why things glowed when they burned. The teacher noticed his blank look and called him adult, which meant mentally slow. That single word broke his mother's heart. The next day, Nancy Edison took her son home and said, "Tom, I'll teach you myself. You're not slow, you're just different." From that moment, a boy once labeled stupid began his lifelong journey of curiosity. He read books, experimented with chemicals, and once nearly burned down the family barn while trying to see what fire was made of. People laughed at him. Neighbors whispered that he'd never do anything useful. But he had one thing no one could take away: a hunger to understand. By the time Edison was 12, he began selling newspapers and snacks on trains to support his family. He spent every spare penny buying tools and chemicals for experiments inside a tiny baggage car he converted into a moving lab. One day, one of his experiments exploded. Fire on a train. He was fired immediately. Another time, he helped a 3-year-old boy escape from being hit by a runaway train. The boy's father, a telegraph operator, rewarded him by teaching him telegraphy, the art of sending messages using electric signals. Edison became obsessed. He started taking apart every machine he could find to understand how it worked. But there was one problem. He was clumsy, broke, and kept failing. By 1867, he had moved from city to city, Boston, New York, Newark, getting fired repeatedly for wasting company materials and working on useless ideas. In his 20s, he was sleeping in basements and eating very little. He had over 20 failed inventions, and no one believed in him. Yet, deep inside, he wrote in his diary, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison's first small success came in 1870, when he invented an improved stock ticker, a machine that transmitted stock prices faster. He sold it for $40,000, a fortune at the time. For the first time, he could build his own laboratory. He called it Menlo Park, the world's first real invention factory. Reporters laughed. They said, "A man who failed 100 times is building a place to fail faster?" But they didn't understand. Edison was creating something bigger than machines. He was creating a system, a place where failure was part of the process. He once said, "I make more mistakes in one day than others make in a lifetime, and that's why I succeed." In 1877, Edison shocked the world by inventing the phonograph, the first device to record and play back sound. Newspapers called him the Wizard of Menlo Park. But glory didn't last, because when he turned his attention to the next dream, bringing light to the world, everything went wrong. Thousands of scientists were trying to create an electric light that could burn steadily and safely. All had failed. Edison spent 2 years testing thousands of materials for the filament, the tiny wire that glows. Cotton, bamboo, human hair, horsehair. Nothing worked. His investors lost patience. His workers were exhausted. Even his wife, Mary, begged him to stop. But he didn't. He said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." And in October 1879, after testing 6,000 materials, one burned bright. Carbonized bamboo. The world had light. He didn't just invent the bulb. He created the entire electric system. The wiring, the generators, the switches, the foundation of modern electricity. Just when he thought his success was secure, another storm arrived. A man named Nikola Tesla, a brilliant inventor, once worked for Edison, until they disagreed. Edison supported DC current, or direct current, while Tesla believed AC current, or alternating current, was the future. What followed was known as the War of Currents, a brutal public battle. Edison's reputation took a hit as companies turned to AC systems. He was called outdated, stubborn, even a failure again. But even through defeat, Edison didn't stop creating. He moved on to new inventions, batteries, motion pictures, and the first talking films. He once said, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." By the time Edison died in 1931, he held over 1,000 patents. But his real legacy wasn't the light bulb or the phonograph. It was a mindset, a belief that persistence beats talent. Psychologists today call this grit, the ability to keep going when everything falls apart. Edison didn't just teach the world about electricity. He taught us about the power of resilience, curiosity, and obsession. His story shows that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. When the news of his death spread, cities across America dimmed their lights for 1 minute in his honor. For the first time in decades, the world went dark to remember the man who brought it light. So the next time someone calls you a failure, remember Thomas Edison, the boy who was thrown out of school, fired from jobs, mocked by peers, yet became the man whose idea changed millions of lives.
So don't worry if something fails. You can always get up and give a comeback. So, take your time and reset. Then, restart. The only person who is stopping you is you.